Franchino Baresi was born in Travagliato, a commune in the province of Brescia in Lombardy, northern Italy, on the 8th of May 1960. His older brother Giuseppe was born 2 years prior, and together they discovered a common interest of football. Born and raised about an hour's distance from Milan, the Baresi brothers were destined for the fashion capital. Tragically, they lost their mother to illness when Franco was just 11 years of age, and their father raised the siblings into their teenage years. Giuseppe joined Internazionale at 14 and was instantly successful in their Primavera youth side. Soon after, Franco unsuccessfully tried to follow in the footsteps of his brother, labelled as too small and frail for a centre-back, who would not be up to the demands of the Serie A. The Nerazzurri asked him to return for next year's trials, and after a similar rebuttal from Atalanta, he approached the famed rivals of Giuseppe's club. His coach, Guido Settembrino, urged Franco to continue with the Rossinieri, who, after 2 trials, finally offered him terms. They travelled together to the city, and Franco was given a sports study programme at Milan's famous Milanello training complex. At 16 and 18 respectively, Franco and Giuseppe became orphans, as after just 5 years since losing their mother, their father died. This forced them to grow up quickly, and they poured their grief into chasing their ambition of making it as professional players. While Giuseppe was eased into Eugenio Bersolini's first team, Franco thrived in Milan's Primavera side, receiving praise from the manager Niels Liedholm, who stated that the youngster had far more maturity and intelligence than his 17 years would suggest. The Swedish legend gave the team his Serie A debut against Verona on the 23rd of April 1978, and impressed instantly in the number 6 shirt. Composed, quick, and gifted with an ability to read the game, he was established as a key member of the first 11. The club masseur nicknamed Franco Piscinin, Milanese for Little One, while the Italian media coined the more demeaning titles of the other Baresi and Baresi II, as Giuseppe had already represented Italy's under-21 side. In the summer of 1978, before the next league campaign began, Liedholm identified Franco as the Rossinieri's first-choice libero, or sweeper, further cementing his place in the lineup. With the guiding forces of Fabio Capello and Ballon d'Or winner Gianni Rivera, Milan flourished throughout the season and won the 1978-79 Scudetto, the club's 10th ever. Dark days followed, as Milan were involved in the 1980 Totonero, a match-fixing scandal uncovered in March, for which the Rossinieri's president, Felice Colombo, was disbarred and the side was relegated to Serie B. Both Baresi brothers were included in Italy's 1980 European Championship squad, but Franco wasn't selected for any of the matches, as the Azzurri finished 4th place on their home soil. The young sweeper stayed at the club and thrived to help them to immediate promotion, winning the 2nd division title. In their return to the top flight, Milan's form wavered. Baresi, now a talismanic figure in defence, was kept out of the side for 4 months by injury, which cost them, and the Rossinieri was demoted to Serie B for the first time ever on the pitch. The 22-year-old was again chosen to feature in Italy's 1982 World Cup squad. Though left out by Enzo Berzot across the tournament, Baresi journeyed with the Azzurri to the final against West Germany. They comfortably overcame Die Mannschaft to claim their 3rd world title. As the best of a bad bunch, Piscinin had sparked the interest of many bigger clubs in the Serie A. The offers were generous and would free him from another Serie B campaign, so he could retain his status in the top flight. The loyal Milanista never truly considered these offers, and following the departures of Aldo Maldera and Fulvio Collovati, 2 of the more experienced players, Baresi was made captain of the club at 22 years of age. He quickly dispelled doubts of his early appointment as skipper, guiding the fallen giant to their 2nd Serie B title, which more importantly returned them to where they belong for the 1983-84 season in the top flight of Italy. Onwards, the Rossoneri stuttered through the league, playing unexciting football under Liedholm, averaging 5th place finishes and claiming no silverware from 1983 to 87. Silvio Berlusconi bought Milan in 1986 after President Giuseppe Farina was suspected of stealing from the club and went into exile. Fabio Capello was named manager as the Swedes stepped down in April of 87. However, Berlusconi looked to the second division for his next manager, finding Arrigo Sacchi of Parma, who he controversially appointed prior to the start of the 1987-88 season. The Dutch duo of Marco van Basten and Ruud Gullit were brought to the fashion capital with the additions of Carlo Ancelotti and Alessandro Costacurta, who helped brace the side. Sacchi was able to implement his own philosophy, and Milan began exciting fans with a fresh style of play. The culture of Italian football seemed to revolve around defending, but Sacchi wanted to build a proactive side that defends on the front foot. His side pressed in a solid 4-4-2 formation, in which all players had to understand their positional relationship to each other. In his debut campaign with a top-flight side, Sacchi's Milan claimed their first Scudetto in 9 years. Their newly designed offensive line garnered most of the praise, but arguably the key reason for their triumph was the back four. Baresi as captain was the heart of the defensive unit, which featured the young, quick left-back Paolo Maldini, Alessandro Billy Costacurta as the versatile stopper, and the tenacious right-back Mauro Tassotti. As an ensemble, they had a great on-pitch chemistry, enabled by their flawless communication. Over the course of the season, Milan's defence grew stronger and more compact, trapping attackers with aggressive pressing and driving the counter. By the climax of the campaign, they had only lost 2 matches and conceded a mere 14 goals. After having been left out of the 1986 World Cup squad, his new club success earned Baresi a place in the European Championship side 2 years later. Named sweeper, his vigorous performances in the early stages made it impossible for Azeglio Vicini to overlook him, and he featured in every Azzurri fixture. Upset followed, however, when the Soviet Union eliminated the Italians en route to the final.
The Azzurri are beaten, and the Soviet Union, for the 4th time in their history, reached the final of this competition.
Defensive midfielder Frank Rijkaard was signed and slotted in neatly beside Ancelotti to help reinforce the side. The Rossoneri had been excluded from the European Cup for 9 years now and hadn't held the trophy since 1969. This transformed Italian side, with its powerful Dutch trio and unmatched defensive quality,
balón para Gordillo, cortó Tassotti, ha recuperado Schuster. Posición antirreglamentaria señalada por uno de los ayudantes.
Was too much to handle for the European sides. Milan stormed through the tournament, bettering Werder Bremen in the quarters and stunning heavyweights Real Madrid 6-1 across the 2 legs. The 1986 champions of Europe Steaua Bucuresti awaited them in the final, but the Romanians were outclassed. Sacchi's well-oiled machine confidently held the ball and mercilessly pressed when they lost possession. Gullit and Van Basten netted braces, and the final whistle declared the Italians 4-0 victors and European champions. 3 weeks later, the Rossoneri found themselves in the Supercoppa final with Sampdoria. After Gianluca Vialli's opener, Milan's response was fierce, eventually bettering Ibluka Chiati 3-1 to lift their second trophy of the season. The Intercontinental and European Super Cups were also lifted by Baresi in December, making 1989 one of the club's most successful ever years. The captain and some of his teammates experienced certain personal glory to top off the month. In the Ballon d'Or voting, Franco earned the second most points, finishing runner-up to Marco van Basten who collected another golden ball, having also won in '88. Rijkaard came third, denoting Milan's dominance. The taste of European glory was a fresh one, and Sacchi's 11 drove to retain the cup. Tight victories over Real Madrid and Bayern Munich in the second round and semis respectively pitted Milan against Benfica in the competition's May conclusion. In the month preceding the final, Juventus had conquered the European champions in the Coppa Italia, and Diego Maradona had inspired Napoli to claim their second ever Scudetto, edging out the Rossoneri by just 2 points. Bitter off the back of their domestic shortcomings, a determined Milan kicked off in Vienna. Their heroic skipper set the tone, with ruthless tackles and aggressive forward runs to force the counter-attack. A deadlock between the sides lasted 68 minutes until the Ballon d'Or winner played Rijkaard in on goal. Baresi's stringent authority held the defence together for the remainder of the final, denying the Portuguese an equaliser and keeping the European Cup. For the first time in a decade, a club had secured the trophy for the second consecutive year, which wasn't achieved for another 27 years. The skipper was both the standout of the final and the league, and was later named the Serie A Footballer of the Year over Maradona, Lothar Matthäus, Van Basten and Roberto Baggio. During the summer, Baresi was finally chosen to play in the World Cup finals, dubbed Italia 90. Alongside the Azzurri skipper, Giuseppe Bergomi, Franco was exceptional in aiding the Italians to keep 5 consecutive clean sheets. They went unbeaten for a World Cup record of 518 minutes, and only seeing their defence breached twice in all. Argentina netted the first goal against them in the 67th minute of the semi-finals to match Schillaci's opener. No winner was determined, and the match was extended into spot kicks. The Rossoneri captain powerfully drove home the opening penalty, but the libero was recognised amongst the competition's greatest performers and was included in FIFA's official team of the tournament. The 1990-91 season was one full of near misses, again finishing runners-up in the league, this time to Sampdoria, reaching the final 4 of the Coppa Italia and being disqualified from the European Cup. In Marseille, the Rossoneri abandoned the pitch when half the floodlights went out and refused to continue the game. UEFA declared the French side victors and banned Milan from next year's competition. Since 1987, at the time of Sacchi's appointment, the club hadn't suffered a trophyless campaign until this year, which led to a changing of the guard. He left the role to take over the national team in the summer of '91. By this time, Sacchi was dubbed the Prophet of Fusignano, having played a key role in the transformation of the side and the revolution of the sport overall. His tactics and players were retained by his replacement Fabio Capello, who, though initially seen as a Berlusconi yes-man, eased the club back to winning ways. As 4-time European champions, it was strange for the competition to go forth without them, but it gradually became clear that their exclusion from Europe would permit more focus on reclaiming the Serie A title. With Marco van Basten back to full fitness and a rejuvenated squad, Capello's start in the fashion capital was extremely positive. In 14 games, as the teams went into the winter break, the Rossoneri topped the table. Their Dutch marksmen had netted 9 already and they hadn't lost a single game. Baresi, in his renowned defensive quartet, had developed into a world-class player over the last 5 years, and the experienced unit was stronger than ever before. The offensive lines of the most feared Italian teams were thwarted, helping Capello's group to an astounding achievement. They maintained the unbeaten run for the entirety of the 34-game league campaign to win the Scudetto. It was a historic triumph, never achieved by a Serie A winning side before, and though Hullet, Van Basten, Donadoni and the other attackers had played a part, their defensive fortitude was the key reason they were able to become Gli Invincibili. Exceptional performances continued into their 1992-93 season, staying untouchable for another 23 matches until March, when they faced Parma at the San Siro. A 1-0 defeat put to bed their ridiculous record of 58 games without a loss, between the 19th of May 1991 and the 21st of March 93. The Serie A was the most competitive league in Europe at the time, with the best players in the world and most esteemed managers, yet Capello's Milan were able to stay untouchable and become the greatest ever Italian club side. Domestic form translated well to the European stage. Milan reached the final of the newly rebranded UEFA Champions League. On the road to the final, Milan conceded just 1 goal in the whole competition, which was to PSV's Romario, one of the greatest ever forwards. The Italians fell short to Marseille, whose single goal could not be matched in the 90. Just 2 league games remained, but Milan's dominance throughout the 9 months had already secured them a second consecutive Scudetto, their second trophy of the year after their Supercoppa success in August. During the summer, some significant changes were made to the squad. Starting Dutch staples of the side, Gullit and Rijkaard departed the city, but Capello found apt replacements, including Marseille's Marcel Desailly, who attracted Milan's attention in the European final. Due to Van Basten's injury and Gullit's parting, the Rossinieri's offence was weaker than prior years, forcing Capello to approach fixtures with a defensive mindset. With this, the quartet had to shine, and with the Frenchman slotted nicely in front of the back four, it did. In their first 7 Serie A matches, they held a clean sheet and breezed through the first 2 rounds of the Champions League without suffering a goal. 1-0 wins and 0-0 draws were popular for Capello's side, getting behind the ball at all times, with Baresi and Maldini both excelling. Between August and March, Milan endured just a single loss and held 20 clean sheets. In an 11-match span from December 1993 to the following February, Baresi's back line went unbeaten for 929 minutes. Trailed closely by Juventus, the Rossinieri claimed their 3rd Scudetto in a row, but further challenges followed. Their April semi-final match against AS Monaco finished 3-0 to the Italians, and yet again they reached a European final. This match, however, pitted them against the tournament's heavy favourites, Johan Cruyff's Barcelona, who were excessively confident in the lead-up to the final. Their arrogance was somewhat justified. Baresi and Costacurta were both suspended. Van Basten was out injured, while Jean-Pierre Papin and Brian Laudrup were excluded due to a UEFA regulation which stated that a team could field no more than 3 non-nationals. After a year of sitting back in defence, the weakened Serie A champions stunned the Catalan giants with an unexpected attacking style that neither the Dutch legend nor his players had prepared for. Tassotti lifted Milan's 5th European Cup while the sidelined heroes looked on. The back four is generally believed to be the greatest ever defensive line, and Milan's 1993-94 campaign is a major reason for this. Milan ultimately won the Scudetto by defending, the Italian way, scoring just 36 goals in 34 league games but conceding merely 15. Baresi piloted the defence to 22 Serie A clean sheets, which helped Sebastiano Rossi achieve the longest streak without letting in a goal in the league's history. Franco was handed the armband following the retirement of Bergomi and was set to captain the Azzurri for the 1994 US World Cup under Sacchi in his 3rd year as manager. In Group E, with the Republic of Ireland, Mexico and Norway, Italy had a sluggish start, but managed to escape an early exit by netting just a single goal more than the Norwegians, who were sent packing. During their second group game, Baresi sustained a fracture to his meniscus, a cartilage in the knee, which can take months to heal. The skipper was in the twilight of his career, and this World Cup was Baresi's final shot at more international glory, but the prognosis indicated that he wouldn't be able to set foot on the American pitches this summer. 2 days after Baresi had hobbled off the pitch, he couldn't straighten his leg or walk on his own, and rapidly surgery was organised. With his family's close support, he began the recuperation process. Sidelined and helpless, he witnessed the Azzurri scrape through the stages via some unbelievable Roberto Baggio performances, landing them in the concluding match of the competition. Amazingly, Baresi recovered and was declared fit, awaiting Sacchi's selection for the final. Italy would be facing a fast Brazilian strike force and needed to have a defensive duo that knew how to stop the likes of Romario and Bebeto. With Maldini and Baresi now available, the obvious choice was made, and the skipper, 25 days after his injury, led the Italians onto the Pasadena Rose Bowl. The 34-year-old sweeper gave a perfect demonstration of his elite defensive capabilities. He predicted every Brazilian move to a T and foiled their offensive plans, suppressing the Barcelona forward with apparent ease. Baresi also seemed to have a third lung. After nullifying the Seleção attack, he would launch into his signature sweeping runs to spur on the Italian counter. Midsummer California heat was draining, and the Azzurri captain endured leg cramps in the dying moments of the stalemated final. The Rossonero's admirable persistence led him to the penalty spot, as the opening taker of the spot kicks. Wearily, he approached the ball, and after a hectic American summer, Baresi blazed his effort over the bar. His poignant moment was topped by Baggio, named the greatest player in the world at the time. The divine ponytail similarly struck the ball over the crossbar and conceded the World Cup to Brazil. It was one of the greatest defensive performances ever seen, yet it seemed to have been overshadowed by his miss. He became the 6th player in history to win the gold, silver and bronze medals at the World Cup. After playing one more game for the Azzurri in September, Baresi retired from the Italian national team. Having accumulated 81 caps for the side, he was given the captain's armband for 3 years and selected for 3 World Cups, 2 European Championships and 1 Olympics. Quickly after Baresi's return to his homeland, the skipper claimed a 3rd trophy in August, the 1994 Supercoppa, their 3rd in a row under Capello. Following the early retirement of Van Basten and transfer of Papin to Bayern Munich, the Rossoneri struggled domestically. After losing the 1994 Intercontinental Cup, their league form began to wane, dropping vital points to weaker opposition like Cremonese and Padova, allowing the old lady to scale the table. Into the new year, Capello's side overcame Arsenal across 2 legs to claim the 1994 European Super Cup and surpassed the likes of Benfica and PSG to reach yet another Champions League final. By this time, the Rossoneri had slipped to 4th place and had to rely on winning the UCL to qualify for next year's competition. A young, energetic Ajax side awaited them in Vienna, starring a myriad of teenage prodigies. The experienced Italians and youthful Dutch players balanced each other out, and the match was deadlocked at 0-0 until the 85th minute. The 18-year-old marksman Patrick Kluivert set the record as the youngest ever player to score in a Champions League final with a left-footed winner. Capello attempted to rebuild the attack, signing a 28-year-old Baggio and Liberian goalscorer George Weah, who became the focal point going forward. Though Italy's golden boy was past his prime, he and Weah led Milan back to their best, dominating teams with their distinctive style and holding opponents to as few goals as possible. The lack of European games meant less need for squad rotation, and Capello could utilise his best players in league games to push for the title. 21 wins with just 3 losses in the Serie A separated them from the rest, and they brought the Scudetto back to Milan with an 8-point margin over Juventus. This was Baresi's 6th top-flight title, and though rumoured to retire, the captain stayed for the upcoming 1996-97 season. A strenuous campaign was to come. Capello, having spent 5 years in Milan, was appointed by Real Madrid, and Berlusconi feebly replaced him with Oscar Tabarez, who, in Europe, had limited experience and zero success. 4 losses by Christmas was unacceptable, and after their elimination from the group stage of the Champions League, the Uruguayan was displaced by the familiar Arrigo Sacchi to salvage something from their miserable campaign. From the new year, they dropped 38 points in the Serie A and fell to a shocking 11th place by the season's end. Franco Baresi officially retired in the summer of 1997, along with Mauro Tassotti, with whom he had begun his journey. Though his final league campaign as a Rossonero was a dismal end to his career,